What is up, kids? I'm Jonathan Drubner. Welcome to another episode of Gametrotting, where we take all the brilliant ideas that you get while you're gaming, but we actually follow up on them. You know, every day the video game industry is becoming more and more like Hollywood, which is bad, very bad. It's a little good. I guess it's a little good. It's bad because Hollywood's all about sequels, sequels to, and return of the sequels. But it's good because the indie game makers, the ones working outside the system to make cool and different things, are actually starting to give the studios a run for their money, just like Hollywood. And that's exactly what we're going to be looking at today. But don't get your hopes too high. It's not like the indie game makers are going to start making games out of indie movies. But how psyched would you be for some Little Miss Sunshine online multiplayer?
It's about this little yellow alien who got help from the fat kids of Earth.
Experimental.
He was being chased by FBI members and
Weird masters of the future.
Strange adventures in infinite space.
Crayon physics. That guy probably didn't have many tools to work with.
Dangerous high school girls in trouble.
Guess the vomit.
You're like a dismembered brain.
You press a button, and then the vomit comes out and goes blah.
So that you don't all die by the plague.
You can just like draw stuff and it comes to life.
It is a game that has no artwork other than static.
So you just need to slap them all.
It's ridiculous and it hurts my eyes.
And it hurts the pride of these indie devs too, because you've most likely never heard of any of these crazy games. Where do they come from? Who are these people building the better mousetrap?
Usually an indie game is something that it's someone's creative passion.
People make indie games for as many reasons as there are games, probably.
Independent games are mostly made by nerds.
People have been doing it since the 80s or 70s. They were handing around discs or sending them out with magazines. The guys who made Zork, they were just a bunch of MIT students who happened to have a computer when nobody else did. And they all collaboratively came together and made a game with no graphics that is still a classic that people still play today.
In an independent video game, I think there's sort of like a technical definition to that.
Creative, groundbreaking, usually not a big game.
Indie games also sort of defines a spirit.
It's, an idea that's really personal to someone.
Indie games are usually people who wants to break the rules, who wants to try new things.
Technically, you can say an independent game is a game that's not funded by a major publisher.
I think most commercial games, they tend to follow the rules. They may do a slight twist on the rule, but they never dare to break the rules.
The cliche is that indie games are more experimental than usual games, and that's probably true because there's no publisher telling the developers what to do.
Back in the day, half of the games that people played were indie games. I mean, Doom was technically an indie game. It was made by a couple of guys who had a crazy idea.
Publishers have a lot of experience, so they keep you on a track that works, but that means you can't go too great and you can't go too crappy.
If you're able to make something else afterwards, that's a hit.
So maybe now you're curious to explore this, the artistic underbelly of the industry. But don't power on that console just yet, because most indie games are for PC only, and for good reason.
I think the golden ticket is having a good idea, being able to implement it, and being able to distribute it. So whether that's done on PC or that's done via consoles, ultimately they achieve the same goal.
The PC is the preferred platform for indie games because it's easier to develop for, easier to distribute for, and it's not a controlled platform by one company that's giving thumbs up, thumbs down to whatever passes through the door.
In order to make a game for anything beyond PC, you need a dev kit.
Dev kit is when you're making a console title, you have to have this debugging version of the console, basically.
Indies prefer developing on the PC because like a PlayStation 3 dev kit is $10,000. And and that's like half the price it used to be.
There are more PC on this planet than any consoles. So if you want to make an indie game and if you want people to know it and try it, PC is definitely the best platform.
While PC will remain dominant for so long because of the easy nature of Flash and the fact that they can put it out there for free, I think that Xbox Live, the PlayStation Network, and the PlayStation Store are going to open it up for these guys to actually break into the industry.
Drop some titles on me. What are some of the most innovative indie games around?
Talking about innovation in indie games, look at a game like Flow.
When I was working on Flow, I know as a student, we don't really have the money to support that much download. So I made Flow purely in Flash and minimum content. So Flow is like 43K. I also want people to be accessible. You know, they open a web page, they can instantly play it.
I mean, Darwinia is another pioneer in the way that it's very high production values. It looks really, really nice, and it was still a completely independent game, and the creators are fiercely independent.
Portal is a very successful story too. They are kind of going to a different path.
It was developed by 7 students from DigiPen, which is a game college. They made this game called Narbacular Drop. According to them, their only goal was to get hired as a result of making this game, but it's a really good game. Gabe Newell from Valve Software, the president of Valve, makers of Half-Life, came to DigiPen, saw their game, and then on the spot hired all 7 of them.
In my eyes, one of the most popular indie games to ever really see a lot of success is Alien Hominid. And it was originally drawn by a guy named Dan Singe Paladin, and he's got a very unique art style. Everyday Shooter was a guy who was in his garage and was like, hey, I like music, hey, I like these games where you sort of shoot on a 360 degree angle, I'm gonna put it all together.
It's a one-man band game. Single guy did it, and it was released on the PlayStation Network and reviewed very favorably.
It's truly a piece of innovation in gaming.
It's possible now for one-man bands to be making games again and living off that through the mainstream channels.